I mean, I've heard people going, we got to go after Iran because of ISIS. You know, they just have no idea who the players are. And this is a major deficit. The people perish for lack of knowledge.
And if we don't get them to understand what's going on, this is going to be used in the same way that 9/11 was. They're going to fall for all the ramping up of the TSA, as Ben Carson is calling for, saying we've got to send in boots on the ground, special forces to blow up the oil fields when it's our own ally, Turkey, buying it up. I mean, they're the major customers. Like, just pick up the phone and say, don't do that. You don't have to send in special forces.
Well, the truth is, these guys all work for the globalists.
Exactly.
George Soros is involved up to his eyeballs as usual. And I had a caller today, you know, who pointed it all out, and he was absolutely right. This is moving towards a major regional war like Korea, like Vietnam, where we don't use nukes, but it's a major proxy war and hundreds of thousands die, if not millions, like Vietnam or Korea. And then there'll be all the wartime restrictions here at home. Look at Hollande, look at Merkel, look at suspending free speech, martial law in France and basically Germany, all out of them opening the borders, bringing people in, and then they're not held accountable for causing the climate that's allowed them to power grab.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom line here is the globalists are running this sickening situation.
Total chaos here domestically. They want to make sure that they bring in a fifth column into the United States. They want to ramp up the police state industrial complex. At the same time, they keep the war on terror industrial complex, bring back the Cold War, and then also have another Vietnam War in the Middle East. That's precisely what, and we have to get people to understand this or they will fall for it hook, line, and sinker out of fear.
And there'll be trillions and trillions in no-bid weapons contracts.
Yeah.
And just all sorts of carnage. It's a conquest-based economy instead of a renaissance-based economy. A conquest-based economy is controlled by those that create the crises and manage it versus the free market economy that's a renaissance based on free association, the best products, the best ideas, and building up society. David, I'm going to let you get back to the news after the break. I want you to have a great Thanksgiving with your family.
Thank you.
And just say great job to the crew. And don't forget, free shipping this whole week at InfoWarsStore.com. Help fund the InfoWar. Help join the fight.
You guys have the exclusive for, which is a product called Deep Cleanse. And why I'm so excited about it is it's a unique formula, almost like the iodine crystals. We have two unique products that nobody in the world has. One of the most amazing ingredients in the world, and it's called shilajit, and it's actually known as blood of the mountain or rock sweat because thousands of years ago, as a matter of fact, this ingredient was only given to the elite of the elite. Thousands of years ago up in the Himalayan mountains and in Tibet.
And we wanted to put this in stuff for a couple years, but we couldn't get an organic form.
Right. I mean,
so let's explain. I mean, this stuff's so good, we couldn't put it out for years.
Right. So I had to actually, it's kind of like the iodine crystals, finding a source deep in the earth that we could get the cleanest source available. But in Tibet and in Nepal and in the Himalayan mountains, thousands of years ago, they watched these monkeys. And during the summer months, the monkeys would go up into the mountains.
Now you're being racist against monkeys.
And they would pick this black substance from the mountains. And so in Russia, they actually, it grows in Russia in the mountains and in the Himalayas and only in the summer. And shilajit is actually the decomposition of up to 7,000 different medicinal herbs. So it decomposes, all these different herbs decompose in the Himalayan mountains and the volcanic soil up there. And what happens in the summertime...
So it's almost like an oil from...
Yes, it's high in fulvic acid, it's high in humic acid.
Because they're always claiming oil is really from decomposed animals and plants. There is some oil that is based from fossils, but most of it's really abiotic. But so this is a true fossil source? I mean, explain it to me.
It is, it's really the decomposition, like I said, of over 7,000 different medicinal herbs and plants. And with the rocks and the pressure deep in the mountains, it freezes and during the summertime and the pressures build it up.
It oozes out.
It oozes out. So it literally oozes out of the mountain.
It's like rock sap.
It's like rock sap. It's black and it's highly nutritious. Even in the 1980s when the Olympic athletes in Russia were accused of being on steroids, they found out that they were actually been given shilajit because it works as an anabolic as well. and it builds muscles. It's a big dose in there. The second big main ingredient in there is a volcanic zeolite concentrate. And what this formula is designed to do, the shilajit and the zeolites have a real strong negative charge. All the metals and chemicals and PCBs and VOCs have positive charges. So these go in, they grab it, and then they safely eliminate it through the body so you can become healthy. I mean, this is an amazing formula. I wish I actually had it, but because this was an exclusive INFOWARS Life product, you're the only one in the world that has this formula now. And you know, there is going to be a limited supply available when you sell out because you can only harvest this once a year.
How do people take it? How is it recommended that this be done? Just a daily dose?
Yeah, daily dose. The instructions are on the label. You know, of course, I kind of modify it for each individual. It depends on what your lifestyle is. I mean, honestly, the best thing to do is for you to avoid all these chemicals and toxins in your environment and try to identify them and start slowly reducing them. But personally, I'm going to probably take it every day, every other day, and I'll probably go with about a dropper full to maybe 2 dropper fulls. And I don't expose myself to any chemicals.
InfoWarsLife.com. Please also support our local AM and FM affiliates, support their local sponsors or become a sponsor, and spread the word. Because these aren't just great products. This is how we fund this independent operation. We're not taxpayer funded like MSNBC or NPR, and neither is your local station. So support them, folks. This is a war.
Now, to understand how we're being played on this, we need to see the big picture, the big geopolitical picture. Of course, Wesley Clark clued us in on it, intentionally or unintentionally. He talked about the number of nations that they had planned to take down in the Middle East. Fleshing this out, talking about the players, talking about their goals, and talking about how we've seen this developing for quite some time. Joining us now is Joel Skousen. He is the chief editor and founder of World Affairs Brief. It's a weekly news analysis service. Of course, he is also an expert on preparedness. He's written Strategic Location. Where and how should you prepare when things really do hit the fan? And of course, that's always our concern as we see the increasing move towards not only globalism, but to establish that by creating chaos out of all that. So joining us now is Joel Skousen of joelskousen.com. Well, Joel, thank you for joining us. We've talked about the reactions of Putin, of Prime Minister Erdogan of Turkey. We've talked about what the presidential candidates have said in the past about no-fly zones, how they're reacting to this. What's your immediate reaction to what happened today?
This is a dangerous move by Turkey because Russia certainly cannot let this stand as is. Now, they have moved a maritime missile ship into the coastal areas, claiming that they're going to defend the airspace against such incursions in the future. But I don't think that's going to hack it. It's too far away from where this happened. It would take too long for the missile to react to such a thing. I don't think anything's going to work for Russia except to put air defense aircraft up there as fighter defense, fighter cover for these attack aircraft. The Su-24 is a 2-man crew, pilot and weapons officer. It's no match for the F-16. You know, I have Air Force contacts who tell me that the Turkish pilots aren't that good. They don't do well, even though they're trained in the United States. But they're flying a top-of-the-line weapons platform. The missiles that the U.S. uses in its air-to-air engagements is top of the line. And so that's going to be tough for Russia to counter without a similar aircraft and missiles up there. And frankly, I think if this happens again, that's exactly what we're going to see.
Well, you know, we've seen some of the more warmongering neocon candidates like Marco Rubio double down and say, Russia better not do anything because that would be an attack on a NATO country and we would be all in on that. So there we go. There's a reaction from the warmongering side. Well,
I don't think either side is ready for war yet. And yet Russia can get away with defending its aircraft in the area. You know, as Justin Raimundo said, you know, here's an aircraft who's bombing a terrorist target. I mean, there's no danger to Turkey. It wasn't an invasion of Turkey. What's going on? And Turkey claims, you know, well, maybe we really didn't know it was a Russian aircraft. Of course, that isn't true. They know where all the U.S. aircraft are, and the only other aircraft are Syrian and Russian aircraft. They have shot down a Syrian attack fighter before, and But clearly, I think that they knew that this was Russian. There was a similar incursion a month ago, and they did warn Russia about that. I frankly am a little bit surprised because, Turkey really doesn't want to go up against Russia in a war situation. And it would take NATO a tremendous amount of time to get into a position where they could really defend Turkey should Russia go after them. I don't think it's going to amount to that, nor do I think it's going to get to World War III. But I think Russia's going to do something more than just station a missile ship off of the coast. As I say, I think we're going to see some Russian fighter aircraft flying fighter cover over this. And then the Turks, I think, are going to think twice about trying to shoot at one of these aircraft again.
Well, it's interesting, too, that you would say that, because Putin's reaction was not, we're going to take a recrimination against Turkey. What he said was, we were stabbed in the back. That's the headlines that you're seeing everywhere. But we were stabbed in the back by people who are accomplices to terrorism. That's what you're not seeing in the headlines, accomplices to terrorism. And I think that's the point that Putin and the Russians have been making all along. We're there to do a job that you said that you wanted to do, but you're secretly arming, equipping, creating these terrorists.
Yes, and Turkey is the main puppet character for Russia, or for the United States in this. For example, The Guardian last week came out with an extensive article about how Turkey has been allowing all of this oil smuggling to come in through its border. That means that they're taking it to their marketing terminals, they're downloading the oil, they're marketing the oil for ISIS. This is a tremendous thing. The Guardian also pointed out that when they had captured, or when U.S. intelligence had gone in and captured one of the camps, ISIS camps in Raqqa, their headquarters, they found significant evidence of collusion directly between ISIS commanders and Turkish officials. And so it's even admitted by U.S. intelligence that there is collusion there. Now, that portion of U.S. intelligence has to be ignorant of the fact that the U.S. is, in fact, running the show. ISIS was a U.S.-British intelligence creation in order to get back into Syria after John Kerry's problematic remarks at a London press conference got a chemical weapons agreement offered to Syria, and Syria took it, and that stopped the fighting. It stopped the takedown of Syria that the U.S. was planning through a so-called no-fly zone 3 years ago. ISIS is, in fact, the reaction to that, an excuse to get back into it. And that's why the U.S. is not serious about taking down ISIS. The only reason that they attacked the oil convoys 2 days ago was because the Russians, Putin in the G20 meeting, showed satellite photos of all these depots and says, why aren't the U.S. attacking these things? Are they supporting terror? Of course they are.
Yes.
And they did an attack.
And of course, we played a clip earlier in the show from Ben Carson, where he was talking about reacting to this situation. And he said, what we have to do is we have to cut off ISIS's funding. So we need to use special forces to go in and shut down the oil fields. I mean, totally ignoring the fact that our NATO ally, Turkey, is the biggest customer of ISIS, just as you're pointing out. They got massive convoys. They're buying millions of dollars worth of oil a day from these ISIS oil fields. We can't even pick up the phone and tell our NATO ally to stop doing that. That's the blatant, in-your-face hypocrisy. And yet we have GOP candidates, along with Hillary Clinton, just playing along with all this as if ISIS isn't our creation, as if we're not funding them, as if we're not buying their products to keep them going.
You know, it's a very difficult subject for someone to broach the subject of a direct conspiracy of the United States to create a terrorist force. I mean, that is anathema to the media. It's anathema to any mainline or even conservative Republican candidates. They know they're going to get crucified if they try to make that statement.
Yes.
And there is a lot of evidence. I mean, look at the video evidence the Iraqis have of U.S. helicopters resupplying ISIS during the Battle of Mosul.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the videos of Apache helicopter accompanying a convoy of some 75 to 80 Toyota Hilux trucks. And of course, the U.S. will say, well, those were given to moderates and somehow they got into the hands of ISIS. But anybody who's buying that really needs to be in the market for the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, the moderates that we have videotaped today of shooting the parachuting pilots out of their crashing and burning plane, shouting Allah Akbar over their dead bodies, and then blowing up search and rescue helicopters with American-made missiles. Those are our moderate rebels that we're helping there. I guess one of the things that really concerns me so much is the reactions. I'm more concerned